Hitler and the Nazis had set ideas as to what they believed that women should do. They would promote women being involved in roles in the home and in raising children for Hitler's empire. The Nazis even gave out medals to women who had a specific amount of children. But during the Second World War, there would be many different women who served inside of different armies. In Britain, they enrolled inside of Special Operations Executive, and they worked as spies and undercover agents, linking up with the French resistance. In the Soviet Union, women took up arms, and there were regiments of them, and many were considered talented snipers and ruthless and feared soldiers. But Adolf Hitler's ideas of what women should be doing was very different, and he ordered that any enemy woman who was captured on the battlefield should be executed immediately, and he was offended that they were fighting against his country. He would, because of this, begin to ban women to join the German army, but over time the policy was changed, and there were a number of women who were involved in the army in the German war effort. Join us today as we look at the girls and women who fought for Hitler, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. The Germans would change their policy during the Second World War to allow women to join the German army. Hitler said in a speech that, "We possess a generation of healthy men, and we National Socialists are going to watch. Germany will not form any section of women grenade throwers of any corps, or women elite snipers." With this, women were not assigned to combat units during the conflict. They were considered military personnel who would carry out logistics tasks and admin roles. They would make up the numbers often for men who were sent into combat. They also worked inside of ammunition factories. Gertrude Scholz-Klink, who was referred to as a female Führer, would state, "We often hear, even from the women, the most diverse objections against work in the arms factories. The question of knowing whether we can require such work of this or of that particular woman is now well past." Propaganda would call women to come and work in different industries, and inside of specifically the war industries. Goebbels would call on them to abandon working in different businesses, such as beauty salons, and he would tell them to go and work inside of the factories on armaments. But many women who were inside of the arms factories were treated poorly by their bosses, and the working conditions got worse as the war went on, and as demand increased massively. However, there would be a number of German women who, as mentioned, worked as auxiliaries in the Wehrmacht, and these were known as the Wehrmacht Helferinnen. These women were important to the different military organisations, including even the Luftwaffe and the Kriegsmarine. Half of these were volunteers, and the other half were conscripted into the war effort, being forced to take part in the service they were doing. Many were also prisoners of war, and were auxiliary staff of the army, and they were assigned to duties within different German-occupied lands and countries. German women would work inside of Poland for the Nazis. They would also work in France, Spain, Greece, Romania and Yugoslavia. They would perform administrative tasks and work as typists and messengers for the German army, and also work as telephone and transmission workers. Their role in communication was imperative for the Wehrmacht, and they also worked in anti-aircraft defence. They would operate listening equipment, and they would also be involved in spotting aircraft and in civil defence. But many women were also drafted into the military to work as nurses, and many would also join different voluntary organisations, including the German Red Cross. In the concentration camp system, it was known that many of these nurses were not effective, as they would not be allowed to give out much health care and support to the prisoners who were obviously suffering. Women were also a part of the SS. The women's wing of the SS was known as the SS Gefolge, and they were usually volunteer workers who served in the emergency services. But SS women belonged to the SS Helferinnen, or the SS Kriegshelferinnen. They were also used as telephone, radio operators and stenographers within the SS. They would often live amongst SS groups and units. The women's groups had no power over the male soldiers, but there were female concentration camp guards who were classed as civilian employees of the SS. Many of these women would be schooled in how to become evil and barbaric guards at camps such as Bergen-Belsen. The SS women of the Helferinnen were trained at the Reich School in Obernai, and they were considered members of the Waffen-SS after their training. The SS Helferinnen trained at the school. There were other training centres open for SS women. For example, many of them who became concentration camp guards would go and learn at Ravensbrück concentration camp. Many girls who trained in the SS group here had to meet specific criterias, and they also had to be between 17 and 30 years old, and they also must have been over 5 feet 5 inches tall. The age limit was later raised to 40, and many women who became widows during the war were favoured to go and join the detachment and the group. Many of the SS Helferinnen were collaborators, and they knew about the evils that many of the Nazis had been conducting. One historian stated, all of these women were part of the bureaucratic staff and were accomplices, spectators, and sometimes even witnesses of the violence. The Americans would later write a report about the SS Women's School, and they would state that the women should be detained, but their roles inside of the SS went into the concentration camps. The female concentration camp guards became notorious for their evil and brutality. Women were considered well-respected guards of the concentration camps, and many of them were trained from 1938 at Lichtenberg, which was considered the first concentration camp. They were drafted into the system as they would need to guard many female political prisoners, and after 1939 they were then sent to Ravensbrück, an all-female concentration camp, where they were trained further. Many women answered the call to work inside of the camps, and they left lives behind them where they worked as teachers, hairdressers, and had a variety of different jobs. The women were then motivated by desire to be part of the female detachments of the SS, as opposed to men who were ordered to fulfil military service. For them, it was a choice. Around 5,000 women would serve in the concentration camps, and this was around 10% of the entire workforce. Over time, there would be perpetrators and brutal guards who would take part in executions and exterminations of people on a daily basis. Women were assigned to Auschwitz and Majdanek, and they became guards at Stutthof, Flossenburg, Gross-Rosen, and inside of the different extermination centres and camps such as Treblinka. The women who worked here were considered some of the most evil. Within minutes, they would be driving people to the gas chambers, and they would exhibit brutality. Women such as Maria Mandel would school other women in how to be brutal and evil guards, and she would also be responsible for executions of many women in public at sites such as Auschwitz. Many women were involved inside of the German war effort, and they were even members of the SS. Women had a more limited involvement in the war effort than men did, but many became perpetrators of the evil crimes of the SS and the Nazis. They would at the end of the war be executed for their roles, but Hitler would do a U-turn on his whole policy of banning women from having roles inside of the military and the war effort. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.